Hello, Berlin. Guten Tag, guten Morgen. Uh, wow. No coffees for you? No. So, how many mobile developers or React Native developers are see? Whoa. It's going to be tough, though. Um, we are all of us are great developers, and we love what we do. We're doing really good at work, right? We use the latest technologies out there. We use CSS in JS. We use GraphQL. We use jQuery. And we care about developer experience, right? I mean, developer experience is the first thing that we care about. But in today's talk, I'll be expressing myself about user experience, because we tend to forget about user experience while focusing too much on developer experience. And I'm really happy to be here in front of you to talk about a subject which I really love, and that's giving delightful animations via microinteractions and UI animations or UI movement or UI motion to the user. The goal of this talk is to just open your eyes. You can do animations using jQuery on the web and something else on React Native, let's say. I'll present more about what libraries are out there and how you can deliver that user experience that everyone needs to have. And I'll start by saying that the best products do two things well. The first one is features, and the second one is details. The features are what draw people to your product, and the details are what keep them there. The details are actually what makes the difference between your application and the competition. I really love this code. So too many freaking disappointments are usually a sign of too many freaking expectations. And it's true, but I'll change it a bit. So I'll say that too many freaking disappointments are usually a sign of too many freaking unmet expectations. And during this talk, I hope that we are going to provide user the right expectations, and because users want to know the action it's in progress. Users want to know the action is done. Users want to know the progress and how long it's going to take for that action to end. And users want to feel everything natural. The interaction should be natural because we are surrounded by motion in our life. Everything, just imagine driving on a highway with 200 kilometers per hour, because we are in Germany, you can do that, right? And suddenly you're losing frame. I mean, if you're losing one frame, it's enough for you to, I don't know where you're going to end up, maybe hugging a tree or something. So it's really bad to not have a good motion in your life. So everything surrounded, which surrounds us, is based on motion. A natural interaction is the right way of communicating with the user. And I'm pretty sure that most of us, including myself, were using an application and we are talking about, I'm not sure exactly what's wrong, but it's definitely a thing which doesn't feel too natural, like snapping or losing one frame. That's a bad user experience. And we should try as developer to reach the goal of 60 FPS and make user feel they belong to that application. Animation in the interface can create pleasant illusion close to the natural and physics. Like the physical world, it's what has to deal with animations nowadays. So in other words, we have to delight our users. On my agenda here, I have two general topics about microinteractions and UI animations or UI motion. And then we will go to technical subjects, and we are going to take a look at React Native and what's out there and how we can use different libraries. And in the end, I'll discuss about hasty tips. So take it for granted, and not about me. So a micro interaction goal is to provide feedback based on users' action. This can help users visualize how the interface moves or behaves, even though it's purely digital and you have a piece of glass in front of your fingers. Microinteraction is not that type of thing, right? It's not, because it's called a microinteraction, it's not really small. So you have to see it, right? It's not that big, and it's not going to take the entire space of the application. So it shouldn't create that high distraction from the most important features or the content of your screen, from your screen. A microinteraction doesn't incorporate more actions. It should do one particular thing, and is not going to overload the whole application screen. So in other words, a microinteraction is the contained product, like it's containing a product moment that a user actually perform, and should do one thing only, and it should help user to achieve their goal, their final goal. There are different types of microinteractions, and there are many, but I'll go through only 5 or 6 maybe. Visibility of the system status plays an important role in your apps, because users want to know what's happening at a given time, and this will set the correct expectations and will let user know how much is going to take to perform that action. So keeping the user informed whenever they perform an action, it's a good user experience. Visualizing inputs. I mean, forms are really boring. And you can make something special out of them by using microinteractions. I bet that most of us just encounter this problem with filling up a credit card form inside an application, and if, I don't know, the focus is not going to jump from credit card number input to the expiration day or to CVV2, or and is not showing you on the screen what you exactly typed, and you have to count all the 16 digits that you need to press. It's like it's bad user experience, and it's not going to help users. A direct manipulation is the visual and the motion that can bridge the gap between acknowledging input immediately and animating in ways that look and feel the user can manipulate directly the screen, even though it's, again, a piece of glass in front of the fingers. A feedback makes you feel like you're interacting with real elements on the screen and demonstrates the result of the user action. For example, Twitter or Medium has this favorite or clap interaction, and it makes you like pushing it. It's like there is no way to just hide it. That's why maybe I like Yanni's tweets. So I always like, I want to see that micro interaction, and I'm always liking his tweets. It's like there is no way. I was trolling. No. Acknowledgement, right? This is everything that I was discussing about Twitter micro interaction, which it's engaging with the user. Achieving, I think this is the right way to inform the user about the result of an operation. In this example, the time to hack is calculated based on the user input, and it's trying to help him out, saying that, dude, you're doing something wrong because your password can be hacked in 5 seconds. And as long as he's typing more characters or complex ones, UI is going to give him a feedback saying that you're doing a good job. That's again a good user experience. UI animations, it's another part of the user journey inside your application, and it's a way to tell a story, and it's also going to move or give life to your static UI. Keeping the context by using an animation, it's a good example. I think that also Evan mentioned shared element transition. This one is going to help user not losing the focus while navigating between different screens, and is going to move without friction, and it's going to help user and think. The app is going to think for the user, not user should think, not vice versa. It's going to make interactable and interactive by gesture handlers. It's also going to empower user, and he can have the sense and feeling that he's modifying the entire application. Stagger, of course, appearing and disappearing of the elements will please users' eyes. You see, it's a bad. It's like appearing and disappearing is like popping. Not actually. If there was a fade in, fade out animation, that will be. So appearing and disappearing of elements, because we are developers, right? You can do a. Wow, I wish I could do this in React Native. It's great. I'll not touch the computer. I'll just blink. And if you can animate the appearing or disappearing of elements on the screen, it's going to make your app really sophisticated. And animate elements using a stagger effect while they're unmounted and mounted, it's a great experience, and it's going to make users' eyes always staring at the screen. Again, we are developers, so we are here to talk about code, right? I didn't want to include any technical details in this talk, but I had eventually, because my goal was to reach out 100 slides. Unfortunately, I only have 99. And what about React Native, right? What about React Native? There are animation libraries out there that's going to help you achieve those micro-interactions and also UI animations. The first one is the built-in animated API that exists in React Native. I know that it's bad to say easy during a talk, but it's really easy to get started with, just to get your hands dirty. It also has stagger, timing. You can do spring, which is physics-based animation. You can also delay, do parallel animations. You can also do math operations like multiply, subtract, add, and so on. It also has support for interpolations. So if you are animating one value, you can also interpolate to that value and do like a background color interpolation or other different interpolations. It's using native driver only for two I would say types of animations, like what you can actually achieve on the native thread, and that's the transform and the opacity. It requires some talent in a way or another to achieve 60 FPS, and it also has support for layout animation. A layout animation, it's more for when your app state change is going to animate or give the user the animation between different states of the application. And in this example, this is what I've built using only animated API. React Native Animatable, in my opinion, is the best library out there for creating micro interactions. I was drinking yesterday with Oblador, and yeah, thanks so much for creating this awesome library. It has lots of built-in animations, 62 to be more precisely, and this is like a small demo. But you can create like what microinteraction you can create. You can create an icon bell, and you can animate the whenever the application or the user is going to receive a new notification, is going to animate that badge. So let's take a look at the code, right? It's pretty small, I will say. So the first thing is that animatable expose a create animatable component, so you can wrap whatever component you already have in the application into an animatable component, and it's going to output some animation properties that you can later use. In our case, I was wrapping the bell icon with like the font awesome, the whole family. And here I'm passing the use native driver and the fade in animation with a duration there. And for the badge itself, I'm using the ta-da animation, which is like, you know, like if you're shaking your head. And I'm also specifying a duration for that, which is half a second. And that was the result. The next library is React Native Reanimated. I think it's the most performant library out there by far. Everything it's happening on the native thread. Yeah, it has use native driver everywhere. It's like there is no way for you to lose any frames, and it's also great for low-graded devices. It has transition API component, which is AKA layout animation, and in this GIF example, I'm actually showing an example which also React Native Reanimated repository provided. So let's go deeper in the code. So here we have the transition API, and we are passing a different config. And we're saying that, hey, you should transition the change by using the ease in out interpolation. Here I'm defining the items, silly, and right here I'm wrapping the whole component into a transitioning view, and I'm passing that transition config which I've just explained. And of course, the missing piece is that whenever someone will press on a button, or you have a different state that will trigger that animation, you need to say that, hey, animate the next transition change from my state. And the rest is shuffling and only for the demo purposes. Another great library, it's called Pose. Pose, it's a physics-based animation library. It's pretty simple to animate elements. It's based on key. It's also using the same syntax as style components. So if you're familiar with style components, it's really a step forward to understand better this library. It has parent and child relations, and supports gestures, and it also supports unmount and mount transitions. If you're taking a look at the code for the example which was running in the background, we have a posed view, which is exactly like a style component. The key right, in my case, and the left is going to either rotate 45 degrees or minus 45 degrees. And that component, in order to move the elements, you need to provide the pose prop. And I'm doing a math random here, so it's either right or left. And pose is going to take care of the all animation underneath. So you don't need to interpolate anything, you don't need to do anything basically. Just pass the config to a posed view or posed text and send that prop as pose. Another library is called Dragspring. This is a library that's also using physics underneath. It's based on animated API and React Motion. there is an ongoing React Native Reanimated integration inside it, and I think that is going to make it the most powerful weapon, let's say, for developers that would like to achieve microinteractions or UI animations out there. And it also has support for hooks. This example, let's take a look at the code and how we can do it. The first one, again, you can wrap your existing components with an animated function. Pass the config. In our case, we pass the mass and the tension there. Also friction, because it's a physics-based. It's just imagine nothing is working the same. So if you're on moon, on the moon is like you have a different gravity there, and if you're on Earth, is like things are moving differently based on the environment. So this is why we're passing different mass, friction, and so on. And then we use the hook useTrail. useTrail, it's creating a stagger animation for a list of items. And here I'm passing the config for the animation itself. I'm giving the opacity and the translate y and the height and the initial value from where it's going to start. Then the result of the useTrail hook is going to give me a list of animated components or animated values that are going to interpolate over time. And I'm passing to that values to an animated text, which I've just defined in the first place. And that's going to create that stagger animation for each particular item from your list. Shared element transition. Actually, it's a navigation stuff, but I prefer to refer to it as shared element transition, and it's a good way to keep your user in focus. So shared element transition, there is React Native Magic Move. It has multiple transition support. It has JavaScript implementation, and it also has React navigation integration. Good job. Hein gave a talk at React Europe, and he's going super deep into details and explaining how this library is working. He also created afterwards React Native shared element transition, shared element, which is the native implementation of the shared element. Also, Evan mentioned this library. It's pretty cool, and it's cross-platform, and everything is 60 FPS. I mean, because it's native. The third one is React Native Fluid Transition. It's really easy to use. It has React navigation integration. It has appear and disappear transition, and it's a JavaScript implementation. So let's take a look at the example shown here in the GIF. I have two screens, and on each screen I have an image, and I'm passing different styles for that image on screen 1 and screen 2, like here. And then React Native Fluid Transition offers us a create fluid navigator, and instead of passing a create stack navigator, let's just replace that with a create fluid navigator. Then React Native Fluid Transition offers us the transition component, and you can wrap the images with a transition component and pass the property name of the share, like the key, to know which one to map between different screens. And then, of course, like the funny thing is that it's really smart library, and it knows how to map the different styles from different screens, and you don't need to worry about interpolating. And in our case, I'm not even passing rotation on the first screen, but on the second screen, because that has a rotation style, is going to automatically rotate the element for me. I'll give you some hasty tips. While doing animations, I found out that there are some possibilities and some tricks that you can integrate in your application. The first one is mounting and unmounting with React Pose. Pose offers a transition API. It's kind of hidden, so you need to dig really deep into the documentation website. Maybe someone will open up pull request. Yeah. So pose transition, again, it's enter and exit keys, and you need to only wrap the component with the transition component, and the child is going to, based on a flag, is going to modify the appearing and disappearing of the view. Again, you can also toggle between different components, and it's going to animate both. A small example here is that here I'm playing with the opacity and the Y position, and whenever you press on the screen, it's going to fake a new component being mounted, and it's going to animate between those states and those components. But you can do like dynamic animations. In my case, I'm just doing a random number for X, Y, and I'm also rotating them. So whenever you press on the screen, it's going to change the whole behavior randomly, which is really nice because users will not always expect the same thing happen. Another one which I recently discovered, let's say, it's called interconnected animations. It's just my name. I mean, maybe you can find a better name. I'm just doing interconnected animations. I'm not even sure if I spelled it correctly in English. What you can do here is that you have, let's define two different animations, which is starting from 0. Both of them are starting from 0. Let's create an animate method that is going to use the spring, because I like physics, and is going to modify the index based on the tick, and of course is going to use the native driver. So far so good, I think. And we have this use effect, right? And when the component will mount, I would like to animate, so I would like to map the animation to the existing to just start the animation, right? And then after half a second, I'm increasing the timer, and I'm setting the value for the tick to that timer. And suddenly, out of nowhere, by passing the index to the modified index to the view, is going to automatically animate everything. Without doing set state, without doing anything, it's just going to work. And it's really powerful because everything is happening on the native thread, except the set interval. But the animation itself is stored on the native thread, on the native layer. There is no communication on the bridge. Another example combining stagger animation and this interconnected animation, you can build also like showing a clock here and also modifying the seconds and minutes and hours. Hopefully you'll I'm not sure if it's visible or not, the whole code, but this is the final output that you can get by using this technique which I just presented previously. So let's make UI intuitive. Let's make it natural. Everything should be physics-based and act like you being your own like user. And whenever you're building an application, you have to be the first user, not the actual user, if that makes sense. I'm currently working for Skype. I have a bunch of stickers. Just come afterwards to me. All at once, that will be even better. My name is Catalin Miron. You can find me on Miron Catalin on Twitter. Batman Codes is my website. You can find everything there. And thank you so much.